everyone, we are so excited to be back with you today as we relaunch the Power to Build show. My name is Duran and I'm once again joined by Brian Wu.
How's it going, everyone? We've been, working hard to bring the Power to Build show back to you in the home building industry, and I'm thrilled the big day is finally here.
Yeah, we launched the Power to Build show back in the middle of 2020. It was right in the heart of COVID. And we set out at that really critical time, aiming to explore the way that technology, data, and innovation were all driving the home building industry at a time when there were so many questions throughout the home building industry and really every industry. And really, after the break we took, that's what led us to today's big relaunch of the Power to Build show. There are so many big topics that deserve to be explored, like big data and AI, the changing home buyer journey, sustainability initiatives, interest rates, inflation challenges that are all facing builders today. And it's truly an honor for us to team up again and be able to dive into these challenges and opportunities. And we're really hoping that this show is going to give you thought-provoking discussion, analysis, and interviews that truthfully make a difference in your home building business.
No, absolutely. That leads us to our special guest on today's show, who couldn't be more qualified, I don't think, to help us kick off this journey and, take the pulse of the home building industry on big topics like those that you just mentioned. Soon we'll be joined by a household name, John McManus, the founder, CEO, and editor of The Builders Daily. If you're not subscribed yet, The Builders Daily is an invaluable resource for anyone in the home building industry. It's a free, daily newsletter that you get, which will give you the most important updates and analysis in a quick and easy to understand read. You may also be familiar with John, from his work with Hanley Wood, where he was a longtime editorial leader and content innovator.
Yeah, John he's so knowledgeable about home building topics across the board, and we're so excited that we get a chance to pick his brain today. But before we get to John, let's stop for some quick introductions here for those who have never listened to the Power to Build show before. Brian, why don't you tell us quickly about yourself?
Of course, thanks, Duran. Stoked to get our Power to Build shows restarted here. For those of you who haven't listened to us before, my name is Brian Wu. I've been a part of Constellation for 6 years now. Started in business development, and in that role, did some marketing initiatives with the marketing team, which was super fun. And since 2021, I've transitioned roles and now am the regional sales manager for our enterprise group for our New Start product, that is. Aside from that, have really been spending a lot of time outdoors as much as I can, with summer around the corner, and watching a lot of the NBA playoffs. What about you, Duran? What you been up to?
Very nice. Well, yeah, I am, as you said, my name is Duran, and I'm a member of that marketing team that used to be your home within the business, Brian. And on the team, I'm really lucky because I get a chance to not only work alongside so many of the amazing Constellation home builder systems, products and innovations, new emerging things to market, and really powerful tools that are central to so many great builders' operations. And I get to bring a voice to a lot of those products and make sure the industry knows about their value and the way that they can make a difference for them. I also get to be, constantly up to date on a lot of the trends, a lot of the most important topics in this really critical industry that we're all a part of. And it's really a role that I take a lot of pride in. Outside of work, I've got, since the last time we recorded, I've got a second young daughter at home. So I've got 2 little girls now who take up a lot of my time, bring me so much joy, and leave me quite tired a lot of the time.
No, that's great. Since our last, podcast episode, a lot has changed in my life too.
Yeah.
I am now married. I've moved into a new home. Thank you. I've moved into a new home, which was actually built by one of our customers using New Star, so that was pretty cool. And earlier in the year, explored as much as we could on our honeymoon within Thailand and Bali. So that was super fun, and that's what I've been up to lately. Duran, do you have any life updates? Anything you want to share with the audience here?
Yeah, it's those 2 girls that are keeping us busy. Fortunately, we were able to move into a home right around the time my first daughter was born. So other than trying to keep that house current and clean, not a lot of change in my life. I think you've had the most travel and excitement, Brian.
No, certainly a lot of change this year. So, but your life does sound busy, productive, which is always good. And it sounds a lot like those in the home building industry that we're so lucky to work with every single day. So we want to make sure that we make the best use of your time. So we're going to take a quick pause here, and we'll be back with our interview with John McManus.
All right, welcome back, everyone. And at this time, we're thrilled to welcome the first guest on our relaunched Power to Build show, the founder, CEO, and editor of the Builders Daily, John McManus. John, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. And nice to see you, Doron. The first guest. Wow, that's an honor.
For sure. Well, we certainly hope so. And before we get into your insights, I do just want to give a chance for those of the listeners who aren't subscribers to the Builders Daily, just to introduce yourself and, of course, the Builders Daily.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I was thinking about this, and coming up on October, it will be 20 years since October 2004 that I had a new job that was covering the home building industry for the first time. So 20 years ago this year.
Amazing.
Covering the large enterprises in home building and real estate development. Here we are today. I've had been honored and gratified and so excited to get to learn about the industry, about the people in it. So that's been my focus for that amount of time. These days, I am working on something called the Builders Daily, and that is all about focusing on solution seekers in home building, residential real estate, and construction, and solution seekers who are trying to address hard problems, chronic hard problems having to do with affordability, sustainability, understanding customers and households, the challenge around attracting young next generation talent. And so these are the chronic challenges that we've been living with. And so the Builders Daily is focused on those voices where we have focused and exciting and helpful conversations that zero in on those challenges.
No, that's great. That's awesome. And I myself get those emails on a daily basis, so I enjoy those. And I'm lucky enough to get to speak to incredible home builders every day. And for so long, right, one of the driving discussions, has been the impact of inflation and interest rates. Like I said, earlier, I moved into a new home, so I just went through that whole mortgage process. Our data shows us that the shock of this has more or less passed, and in most regions are seeing a more stable time. But the impact is definitely reflected in home sales, prices, and overall construction costs, right? So how do you see the economic environment facing builders today?
Yeah, thanks, Brian, and good to see you. I appreciate that your own situation having probably been both exciting and challenging in this time. What you described in terms of being able to absorb the shock and to some degree adjust to it, I think that that's really the sensibility of having gone through a hockey stick in terms of where mortgage rates went because of the Federal Reserve funds rate and all of the dynamics that surround the cost of borrowing. That ascent from historically low rates to above 7% was a shock. I think that a lot of things account for the fact that people do adjust. Historically, 7% is not through the roof as mortgage rates have been in the past. It's around average across a longer span of time. So that rate, in terms of being the for longer part, higher for longer, people will start to adjust, and then life happens. Life happens, meaning that people like you reach the life stage that they're in and have to make decisions for their families and their livability and their careers. And all of those choices mean that their ability to absorb and figure out how to manage the challenges gets them to that point. Now, the economic environment right now, I would say it would be silly to say that it's not full of uncertainties and volatility, a lot of question marks. But even in those circumstances, if you're building new homes, you have a great advantage in this marketplace for reasons that have been mentioned around the lack of availability of existing homes in different price ranges and different quality levels. So new home builders have had an advantage in this marketplace.
Oh, that's awesome. Kind of sticking with the topic of economic challenges, right? What have some of the most successful builders in your eyes have done considering these economic challenges that the industry as a whole can learn from? What do you think, John?
Well, I think that the successful ones, and there've been a lot of ones, not just the major multi-regional public builders who have access to lots more capital at a lower rate of cost, but enterprising private builders that have been able to grow very fast. And I think that what accounts for success are a few things. The ability to work with customers and try and on individual community level and buyer levels to find a way to make a purchase work. Okay, and so that has involved mortgage buy downs. It's involved all manner of incentives that the home builders have had in their tool set for years, but they've got them all ready to deploy, and ready to deploy in a much more kind of client or customer specific way than they've ever been able to before. Now, the other parts that have to do with their ability to be successful have been their focus on their construction cycle time, recovering time that they'd lost in the pandemic era due to the supply chain chokeholds and things like that. So their focus on their operation to increase their velocity has been part of their success as well. So very good management, very good land management in terms of the land acquisition and development and deployment. So they've been very kind of efficient in terms of being able to model the cost and then what they're able to generate in terms of value around their land. So their successes have had to do with a multi-layered ability to be skilled in this challenging environment.
No, those are some great insights, and I totally agree with everything that you said there. Glad to see sort of the downtimes, behind us. We're starting to see a lot more, for sale signs and open houses during the weekends. Obviously, with spring selling season well underway and summer approaching, how do you see the short-term market?
Well, again, I think there's some shifting sands, there's some shifting turf underneath everything, and so it'll be kind of a stay tuned type of environment. One month doesn't make a trend. So, but when we start to see the existing home listings go up in marketplaces, and then you see more potential sellers with some more urgency and changing their prices, and then you see interest rates continue to challenge the households and their wages, you're going to have some volatility, and it may not be a smooth path either down or up. There may be some choppiness to what happens in the next few months, and so we'll all have to sort of look at those conditions. And then I think what you'll probably see is that the tide won't raise all ships. There will be some outlier, very competent organizations that can navigate and thrive in these more challenging conditions as well.
Oh, that's great. And overall, home building industry, in the long run have always been sort of on the upside there. So looking a little bit forward, John, the U.S. presidential election has an influence on a lot of things, and it's quickly approaching, right? Is this something that builders are sort of factoring into their plans?
Well, you just asked that question of somebody who just mentioned that since 2004, which was 2004 was an election
Right.
year, and
Mhm.
now 2024 is. And I asked that question repeatedly over the years among leaders of public home building companies. And generally, what they say is there may be somewhat of an initial reaction with either a reelection or a new incumbent. There's usually some short-term volatility that might be caused and expectations, but most usually the kind of return to norm is in terms of how the business functions. There are so many glacial areas of policy and political will and changes around both the finance and taxation and environmental. So there's a lot of policy uh, noise and some signals that are sort of very slow going. But I think a presidential election is more sort of dramatic for a short-term fall, maybe into the winter, and then people kind of restore to their historical positions on things. So it's still exciting because it's an exciting time, an exciting economy, and lots of global disruption, and so it's going to be a moment for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, zoning out a little bit in any industry, you talk about two of the major things that businesses are facing right now are trying to tackle are big data and more recently this rise of AI. One thing we know really well at Constellation is that before a home builder can really successfully leverage a tool like AI, they have to have a really good handle on their own data. Is the average home builder, in your opinion, ready for the AI age?
It's a great question, Doron. I think that the average home builder is there probably is no average home builder. I mean, I think that
Good point.
what organizations are skilled at, they're either skilled at managing, not having a lot of discipline and rigor around their data, and
Yep.
still figuring out how to manage a lot of moving parts well. So I think it's probably still in the exception that organizations are great owners and cultivators and appliers of data intelligence to make better decisions. It's a very complex process. It involves so many different uncontrollable exogenous and external organizations to coordinate in order to have a build cycle that is smart and deliberate. So I think the industry is certainly ripe for learning and having feedback that helps them learn more, and then able to apply across their organizations data that is meaningful to their business. And so I think the ripeness is certainly here, and I think a lot of people are much more open-minded than they may have been a few years ago to being able to absorb and implement and prosper from it.
John, in your experience, what are you seeing home builders doing that's been the most exciting with artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Well, I think there's a couple of steps to it, Doran, and there are many initiatives across all of the different disciplines. And when I say that, you have disciplines that involve manufacturing, sales and marketing, land acquisition, design and architecture, purchasing. And so you have a stack of activities that are part of a home building organization. And so what I think is going on that's exciting is that almost all organizations are working hard to understand the interrelation of those activities and data. So they're trying to understand and deconstruct those activities so that they can kind of make data and then have a domain that then they can manage into what is repeatable, how do things go together, how do they flow together, how do they flow differently, and begin to map out management of those multi layers of activity across a time period for a home or a community or a master plan in ways. So the learning is going on at a very, very exciting pace. I think you have leaders who know that artificial intelligence and large language learning models are going to be a fundamental part of the process. And so the everyone recognizes that there's a long, long way to go, and then there's also some caution around what needs to be looked at with a weather eye in terms of moving in too fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one other topic I know you're really passionate about, John, is sustainability initiatives in the home building industry. You joined us for an amazing webinar that dove into that subject last year. How do you see sustainability as a priority for the industry in 2024?
Well, I think that consumer households are driving the priority. Okay, so consumer households, younger buyers, young adults who grew up with a sensibility and exposure to both the capabilities around sustainability and also the sense of they want homes and communities and a world that they and their children and grandchildren will have the ability to have a prosperous world around them. So I think that the consumer households are a big driver, and I think that government and the role that policy has around setting policy around energy, around carbon use, around renewables, around water conservation, all of those areas are kind of markers that organizations and business have to try to be ahead of to be able to continue to do business in a way that's successful. They have to stay ahead of those curves. So there has been a lot of progress over the last 10, 15 years. I think, quite a few home builders actually market themselves around the ability to be sustainable and the impact that has on the household budget. So homes that operate at a greater performance level, saving energy costs, saving water, saving all of those resources that are operational costs are part of what the home builders have served as value to the home buyer.
That's amazing. And is there kind of any one or two maybe sustainability projects that you've seen that have been the most exciting to you in the industry?
Well, I mean, I think that there are lots of good examples. There are examples going on in areas that in Florida, where you have the combination of need for high performance from an energy and solar standpoint to attract buyers to their lifetime ownership costs and capability, but then also mixing in the resilience factors around having durable and strong building envelopes that can withstand more of the natural hazard climate type of events that are going on. So Florida, and I think that some of the technologies that we're learning from countries like Japan, where sustainability and seismic activity and resiliency and things like that are all part of making homes that people can be safe and healthy and also operate efficiently over time. That's part of the whole well-being and livability and comfort level that the Japanese builders have become great examples of, and their presence in the U.S. market has impacted the sustainability efforts as well.
That's great. I feel like this is a good note to start wrapping things up on. So before we let you go, John, we wanted to talk to you about the first ever Focus on Excellence Summit coming up this fall. What can you tell our audience about the Focus on Excellence?
Thanks, Brian. It's so exciting to get to work with Constellation HomeBuilder Systems for one, and in co-locating this event. It's to be able to ride along with an event platform with an experience platform that is so highly regarded is just it's such a great launching point. Now, what we wanted to do for the leaders in the home building business was to do something that they don't have, that a need that is not met. And when I talk about that, I think it's not just insight and intelligence into where the markets are going. It's really the connection and value of working closely with each other to learn what's working in a marketplace, how they build high performance on their teams, and really this particular moment around you have so many strong companies that have grown up with leaders who now need to be able to transmit this knowledge, this institutional knowledge, to a next generation. So Focus on Excellence is really about building teams that can cross from the 2020s into the next decade and beyond in terms of having successful, thriving organizations with leadership that has been able to, as I said about the Builders Daily, address those chronic challenges, affordability, sustainability, next generation talent, and resiliency, and really the consumer experience. So those are the chronic challenges. And so Focus on Excellence is really about being able to build the high performance team that is going to be able to meet those challenges.
That's amazing. And John, we are all so excited about the Focus on Excellence Summit, like you mentioned, which will be held alongside Constellation's own Build Smarter conference this coming fall in Austin, Texas. Any industry executives listening today or watching today, you can register for the Focus on Excellence by visiting focusonexcellencesummit.com, while any Constellation customers can be part of the event by visiting buildsmarterconference.com. Both of those websites will have all of the great details that you need as well.
So many good things to look forward to. I guess with that, we want to say thank you to John McManus. Definitely look forward to the Builders Daily emails that I do get. We want to thank you for all the insights that you shared with us, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Brian and Doran. It's great to talk with you again. Look forward to the next time, and thanks for having me on today.
We'll definitely be having you back. Thank you, John.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was a really fascinating chat with John McManus.
Yeah, no kidding. It's always, great content, a lot of good information. Absolutely. I was really, more so intrigued about, what he said about the need for adaptability, right? Not only do builders need to adapt to changes happening, but buyers, especially since, inflation and interest rates and affordability impacting home ownership. You get things in life too, right? You get things thrown at you all the time. So I think it's so key for everyone, sort of involved to have that ability to adapt to what's happening around them. Doran, did anything come to mind from listening to John?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. A ton came to mind, and I was so eager to ask him about sustainability, and I did my best to hold off on it until the end because that's something I'm super passionate about, and I was so happy to hear about the kind of the changes he's talked about from both consumer driven change and government driven change or policy driven change. It seems like there is so much innovation happening there and so much drive forward, and that left me feeling very optimistic. So I was really thrilled about that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we thank everyone for joining us so much for the first episode of, I guess, what we could call season 2 of the Power to Build show. We have a lot more coming your way, and we can't wait to dive deeper into the topic of home building data in our next episode. So make sure you've subscribed to the show on whichever podcast service you like to use so that you don't miss out.
Super excited for that. Thank you all again, and we hope you'll join us for our next episode. keep the conversation going with us, guys, going with Constellation by following us on all social media channels. We're pretty much on all social media. We're on LinkedIn, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and by visiting our website, constellationhb.com, for any information that you'd like. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to our YouTube channel and your favorite podcast service. We'd love if you could leave us a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.